good afternoon, Ros. Welcome to this Humanist Prism interview. Before we begin, I'm going to give our viewers just a short overview of some of your amazing successes in humanism so far. So you've been a member of the Humanist Association of Ghana since it was founded in 2012. You were the secretary and chair of the Young Humanists International African Working Group for many years, 2014 to 19. And of course, you have been elected recently to the board of Humanists International last year in Iceland, where you've been helping to set the strategy of Humanists International, helping to hold me and the other staff members to account to make sure that we're doing our jobs properly, and also playing a role as a world leader in the development of our Humanist network. So it's an amazing set of achievements, but as well you're also very active in the LGBT movement in Ghana, which is something I would like to talk about a little bit later. So yes, thank you for sharing some time with me. And
yes, I'm very honored to be part of this program. So yes, thank you.
Great. Now we're recording this on the 2nd of October 2020. And although this will not be released for some weeks or maybe months, we do want to just acknowledge that today is the day after the rumours have begun to circulate about the death of our friend and colleague Mubarak Bala. Important to say that we still, at this moment when we're recording this, we don't know the full facts. There's many reasons to believe that this report is false and that Mubarak is still alive. But regardless of that, his situation is very bleak anyway. And of course, before the reports, we had extreme concerns about his safety. So even if in the hopefully likely event that he's still alive, his situation is certainly far from safe. So we just, I guess, want to acknowledge that. And I don't know if you have any reaction from your friends and colleagues in Ghana about what's been happening.
Yes, thank you, Gary. I saw the post from our WhatsApp group on for the members of Humanist Association of Ghana, and and then I went online to check what's happening. Like, is this for real? Like, what's happening? And everybody's a bit down and a bit sad about it. But at the same time, I personally am very optimistic that he's still alive. It could be a tactic to throw us off so that we can down the campaign on the Free Mubarak Bala movements. So we are not giving up until it's over. It's not over until it's over. We are not giving up. We are going to continue campaigning for his release and finding out the truth behind this rumor. Yeah, absolutely.
And we had a meeting this morning with the other members of the staff, and one of the things that we acknowledged, and it's difficult to talk about this in general terms because of course the situation for Mubarak is very worrying, to say the very least. But it is a tactic which is sometimes used by people to try and, as you say, to throw people off of the campaign. Also, one tactic which is used in a very sinister way or a cynical way is to try and get organizations to publish false news in the hope that it undermines their credibility. So we also think it could be possibly some sort of disinformation campaign.
Okay.
So, but like you say, Rose, it will not dilute in any way our determination to continue to campaign for Mubarak, and we hope that these reports are false and that we will continue to seek his release. But of course, it's worth saying as well that Mubarak is somebody you've met several times and you knew quite well. That's right.
Yes. So I met him for the first time. Well, I had already been talking to him, since I became secretary and then chair, especially when I was chair for the African Working Group for then International Humanist and Ethical Youth Organization, now YHI, Young Humanist International. And in my quest to get to know other groups better and to get to know who are behind the active organizations and active humanist individuals, I came across Mubarak Bala, and I'd already heard about his story, about when he was first put in a psychiatric hospital for his for proclaiming or coming out as an atheist. And it really touched my heart. And these are some of the issues that I really wanted to deal with, protecting humanists at risk, especially as an African representative, protecting African humanists at risk. So I was really happy to get to know him, that he was doing better. And for me, I had very close relationships with all the executives and active members in these organizations across Africa, from Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, and in Western Africa. And so in Nigeria, the Humanist Association of Nigeria is a group that I've always come to love and support, because they are one of the oldest organized humanist organizations. And when I was organizing the first ever West African Humanist Conference in Kenya, I did one, an international one for all Africans. That was the African Humanist Youth Days, which I organized in Kenya. And the second one I organized in Nigeria. And it was then, I invited Mubarak Bala to be part of it. It was hosted by the Humanist Assembly of Lagos at the time, but we had representatives from Tanzania and then, Eastern part of Africa and the Western that came together for that. And it was good to meet him in person and get to know who he is, personally. He's an amazing human being, very amazing human being. He's done so much work on his own. And the fact that, he was so brave to come out even after his demise, in the psychiatric hospital and all those things. And so, I really looked up to him. And then we were invited to be on the panel for another conference there from another member organization, Atheist Society of Nigeria. And it was amazing to be, there was an amazing panel, and he was one of the members there. And again, we got to know each other again. And since then, we've been in contact, I'm always checking up on him, how is work doing, and your achievements, your challenges, your so many things. And he does a lot of philanthropic work. His main goal was also for the Amajiri children in the north, which is an issue with children who are put into some kind of slavery and are not taken into through formal education and so many things. And he was very, very passionate about it. Probably one of the only one really speaking against the rights of the Amajiri children in the northern part of Nigeria. So, I was really supporting what he was doing, and he was even using, most of his own money to support other individuals and stuff. He was a humanist through and through, not just because, when we say doing good without God, he was one of the best examples from Africa on that. And so it saddened me, we were on the group chats, we have a separate group for that, and we were, always communicating on that. And then he told me he had changed his number, so he wanted me to change the number there. And that was the last time I spoke to him. And a week or two later, I heard he had been arrested and detained. And, it was very scary, because I was hearing that he is very intolerant part of Nigeria where they could easily kill him, and a lot of people have been killed. So when I heard that he had got a lawyer and there was a fund open to donate to, of course, me along with other members of Humanist Association of Ghana, and I'm sure other African humanist members all contributed, both, in cash and in kind, to promote the awareness of this, issue, to free Mubarak Bala, right from the beginning. And I'm very happy for what Humanists International has been doing, and the Humanist Association of Nigeria, Dr. Leo Igwe, and all other organizations who have been part of this to push for the court to give him his rights, his freedom of expression, his right to non-belief, and his right to be a humanist and do what pleases him, and not for his rights to be infringed upon as a human being, So it's really, really sad. There are nights that I sleep in my own comfortable bed and I feel that Mubarak is not here. He's somewhere in some jail cell somewhere, unaware and cut away from everyone that he knows. And it really saddens me. And so we hope that these rumors are not true. And then sooner or later, we will know the truth. And if he's alive and they are keeping him and don't want to release him, and that's why they are sending out this information, then we are going to make sure that, we get him free. That's about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it was very nice to reflect on some of those other campaigns that Mubarak was a part of that you mentioned, because I think for those people who didn't know Mubarak or didn't follow his work as carefully as you did, all they will see sometimes are the critical posts that he's written about religion and his upbringing and Islam. And I think it's really important to reflect on the fact that he was a whole person with all these amazing attributes and these campaigns which he was interested in, and that his criticism of religion was an important part of him, but it was just one part.
Exactly. It was just one part. Yeah. There were so many other sides to him, and he was very generous, very kind, very understanding, very brave, very, intelligent. And, I didn't know much about Islam, but he could very much do a very good debate on how, this was somebody who used to believe it so staunchly and has now come out of it and is able to debate with imams and all kinds of senior Muslim leaders and on his platform and other platforms, and he does a very good job at it. So yeah, his name would always, we'll always remember him for that and always praise him. And we are hoping he's still alive, and we are going to keep on working on his case. Yes,
absolutely. And as you mentioned, the treatment of humanists and non-religious people in Nigeria varies, but generally we can say it's a very difficult place to practice your beliefs as a humanist. I wonder, maybe you could tell us, for those who are not familiar, what's it like being an atheist in Ghana? Does it vary in the regions that you're in, or what is life like as a Ghanaian humanist?
Life as an African in general can be a bit complicated for a lot of people who are not used to it, because we are very diverse already. We are very diverse in where parts of the world that we come from. Even in your own country, depending on the tribe and where you were born, and a lot of things are put into consideration, and your economic status and all those, the economic classism and all that. So, and then your gender, yes, that's also another thing. And even your sexual orientation, like we're going to talk about later. So it depends on which level you fall on that scale of privilege or non-privilege. And so there are many of us, many of us that are still in the closet, and their only place where they can be themselves is at the Humanist Association of Ghana. They have to live a double life as a Christian or a Muslim or some other religious person. And, the only place they can be themselves, the only place that people can know who they truly are and what they truly believe in and everything is, in our space. And so I'm very grateful to have been part of this organization right from the time that, it was born. And there are some people that have faced so much discrimination that, if they came out too early or somebody outed them by mistake, or their family found out that they were atheists or humanist, some of the consequences could be, you could be thrown out of your home. And if you are not financially independent, you're done with school and working or something, then you're going to be in very serious trouble. Or you have some other relatives that at least are going to support you. That's it. You're going to be homeless and, have to depend on some other means to survive. Another way is sometimes they will just emotionally blackmail you that, okay, if you renounce your atheism, we will continue to pay your school fees, or we'll continue to, support you in other spheres of your life or something like that. And so a lot of people go through that as well. Some people are like, how they call it, they are accused of witchcraft or some kind of, belonging to some cult or devilish thing or so. It's happened to me a few times, but it's just words. But for some people, it's their reality, where people are actually scared to be around you. you're literally scared because of all the superstition in our environment, in our culture, and in our in our society. So like even for me, sometimes I had friends and everything as a religious person, but as soon as I started coming out, a lot of people were afraid to be friends with me or be in the same space with me, or to even like if they had a baby or something, would be afraid to let me know if they were pregnant or about to have a baby or about to travel abroad, or certain things, because there's this whole superstition that the devil, whenever you're about to succeed or you're about to achieve something in life, the devil will try to harm you with spiritually. And so if you are believed to have been of the devil, that is atheist, then you are an agent of somebody who could harm me. And so a lot of things that you used to enjoy as a religious person with all your religious friends and everything, and you didn't think they will have a problem with you changing your worldview, all of a sudden becomes a huge issue. You are not invited to a lot of things. Nobody wants to have anything to do with you. You can lose your job, if your employees find out, because Ghana too is a very religious country. So, I mean, everywhere you look, literally, as soon as you walk out of your home, everything you see is religious. Greetings, when someone greets you, it's in a religious way. You say, how are you? They say, by God's grace. But you say, you go to work, most work places have early morning prayer meetings before work starts, whether at a bank or at any government institutions, whatever. So if you're an atheist and you refuse to pray, they start to suspect you of being a person of evil, or somebody who could do something, harm somebody at the company, or harm the business itself. And so you become a target. Sorry.
Can I just ask, Rose, you're obviously a well-known humanist in Ghana.
Yes.
You've been on radio shows and, a very active campaigner. And how do you feel? Is that a risk that you have, or do you feel conscious of that, or wherever you live, is it something that you're quite comfortable doing?
I think that I am privileged enough to come out, and that is even a lot from where I'm coming from. But I also have to be cautious not to, it's kind of like walking on eggshells when you're around religious people, because you might, do something, look at something or touch something, and they might be superstitious about it. So you have to be a bit more careful about your movements, or, what you say, so it doesn't offend someone, or, a bit more, I don't know, diplomatic about a lot of things. So you can still feel it, even if you think that, I can come out and I'm not being lynched or anything like that. I'm not going through any difficulty. You can still feel that, being a minority in such a country in so many other ways. Even, if you're going to find a partner, it's going to be difficult. If you're going to do business, any aspect of your life, I have to still, be careful and see if there are people that would accept me for who I am or not. And, and that's very few people. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm okay, I'm all about love and Christ. But then at the end of the day, they could turn around and, say things about you or do certain things to show that they don't feel safe around you or something like that. So it definitely bothers me, but I try not to let that bother me. And that's maybe one of the main reasons why I'm happy to be part of organizations that help to push this agenda, so that people can know that we exist. There are people, it's okay to be a non-believer, and to other non-believers who are in the closet to know that, there are people like me who can speak up for them, even if they don't have a voice, So I just use the little privilege I have all the time and hope I don't get to the point where, I'll be emotionally blackmailed for something, or, lynched or something. So you definitely have to be careful where you come out to, who you come out to. And, like anything, it's okay to be in the closet at this point, and I think that's why we sympathize a lot with them. LGBT community, because very similar kind of discrimination, even though this is a lot more intense, especially if you are a humanist LGBTQ person, a queer person who is humanist. So definitely, I go through a lot, but I'm still grateful that I still have a job and I still have friends, the few ones that are around are amazing people, religious or not. And I have the Humanist Association of Ghana to always fall back on, if I
That's
want to
amazing.
be away from dogma and superstition and all this discrimination. Yeah.
So it sounds like the Humanist Association of Ghana is really a kind of very supportive community for people in Ghana who, like you say, even if they're still in the closet and they don't want to be out, or they can be out to some people and not to others, but they have a community where they can feel open about their beliefs.
Yes, definitely. It's the umbrella organization for all atheist, secularist, humanist organizations in Ghana. And it's started out so small and so, people just meeting on social media and finding out, coming out on social media anonymously. And then they decided to meet in person. And before you knew it, it became this huge organization that people were so excited. Honestly, 2012 was such an exciting time for HAG, because we were just amazed that we were not alone. Everybody thought they were the only ones in the world, because in the country to be atheist or agnostic, because you don't know anybody. Where are you going to find anybody? So we are really grateful to social media for that. And then from there, it's for other free thinkers as well. There are a lot of religious people that have some humanist values, and they can't freely express that, or there are certain conversations in our society which are not based on facts or evidence. Most of it is dogmatic. Most of it is, based on, some kind of sexist or misogynistic worldview, or some kind of discriminatory worldview, or some kind of religious worldview. Even our politicians and stuff always use God as the way to win elections and stuff like that. So you can't really, there's no place of reason that you can go and have conversations just based on logic, reason, learn something new, and learn your cultures and the indoctrination that you've come out with. Because for Africans, a lot of us, it's not just about religion, it's about our culture. A lot of our culture is steeped in spirituality. And so you have to unlearn everything. Even have to make a new language, create new languages and new ways of expressing yourself without sounding spiritual or religious, and all that kind of thing. And so HAC has been doing that over the years, and we continue to do that. People come to our meetings, whether religious or non-religious, but most of us who are members, actually registered members of the organization are atheists and agnostics. And that is all. We keep it that way to keep that safe space where you know that you are always protected. You are always going to be yourself and express yourself the same way and learn a lot, and feel free to be yourself. You can make the mistakes again and know that we are also there to correct each other and to debate on how we should live our lives now. Like, what's the alternative now? And humanism is the alternative. So we try to Africanize our humanism, and really there's aspects of our cultures that are already humanistic. So a bit of it is easy, but most of it, majority of it, is very spiritual. Being an African means being spiritual or believing in one deity or another, or a number of deities. So it's really hard, and we understand why people can't accept how you can say you don't believe. Like, it's incomprehensible to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I'm just reminded, actually, when you were talking about the issues of culture, about a talk that you gave in London, I think maybe last year, to the Association of Black Humanists. And I was there, and I found it very, very interesting, because some of the discussion that you had was around the issues of the perception, even in Ghana and other African countries, that humanism or atheism is anti-African, whereas in actual fact, as you just said, there are also those who are beginning to make the arguments that actually, some aspects of humanism are, perhaps more intrinsic to African culture than Christianity, which would have been, brought at some point in the past. I thought that was a very interesting point.
Yes, it is. So like I was saying, I was very happy to be on that program with you, Gary. I remember very, very
And I'm also just
well.
reminded of
It
those
was
times
just,
when we used to be able to travel as well. It
I
seems like so
know,
long ago.
right? Exactly a year from this month,
It
right?
was,
So,
that's right. I forgot.
yes, October. Oh,
That's right. Wow.
fingers crossed, we'll be back in London next year.
We hope so.
So yeah, it's very much and there's this whole movement going on decolonization of the minds of African people, because even though Ghana was the first African country to have its independence from the British, to be an independent state, and so we are very proud about that. And we had a number of people that came together to fight for that independence. And our first prime minister was one of those, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, very well-renowned person, and also identified as a humanist, actually. But a lot of people don't see, he wrote a book called Conscientism, which highlights his idea or philosophy of African humanism. And so I didn't know about that side of him until I became a humanist. So humanism has always been, part of us, but in very little pockets across the continent. And because how do you call it? Colonization brought us religion, right? And even though a lot of developed countries, especially most of our colonized countries, have become more secular now, it's more like this idea of going back to colonization rather than being decolonized. Because for me, I feel that you have to be a critical thinker to be able to come to a certain conclusion. And because we were critical thinkers, no matter what perspective we came from, we all came to the same conclusion, that there was no God. And I started to identify as atheist. But it's amazing how a lot of people, especially Pan-Africanists, this neo-Pan-Africanists, Hoteps, and, all these Renaissance African young movement kind of thing, trying to reclaim our Africanness, have this idea that, if you are, to go back, which we have a symbol for in the Akan culture, one of the tribes in Ghana, called Sankofa, going back to the past. And a lot of people feel like, let's go back to the past, way back, way before the white man's ship was found on the horizon, was seen on the horizon and heading towards our coast. When we go back there, we were very spiritual. And so we should stick to say that you are a non-believer is to say that you are not African, because our ancestors were spiritualists and spiritual people. We had traditional religion in almost every tribe across the whole continent. And every tribe even had gods that they worshipped. Every tribe has a god, has its own culture, which is surrounded, like it encompasses what the god stands for and stuff like that. And it's really interesting stories and about our history and our past. But this idea also comes because being a critical thinker about a lot of things about the universe and all that is based on science, which is a way to explain how things happen. A lot of times we see that most of the scientists we know, who discovered, gravity, or, a lot of the theories, scientific theories, are white people. So it also enforces this idea that, you are looking up to white people and not really Black people, because we don't have a lot of examples of people in science, even though now we do have a lot of, Black people, whether African American or African or, Afro Asian, anything, that are in science. But when we look at the past, when you speak about, hundreds centuries ago, all the scientific discoveries from the beginning came from white people. So it makes it very difficult for people to see us as African and feel like we are rather a betrayal of our Africanness.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, and it sounds like a really difficult area to navigate,
Yes,
because
but we can still win the argument, because science is not a race issue. Science is science. Science is devout of race or tribe or anything. You don't
Yes.
have to belong to a certain race to believe that this is what it is, because there's evidence to prove that. And if you test it and experiment on it, you will still come to the same conclusion scientifically anywhere in the world. So, those are ways that we can debunk it. But definitely, we can understand how people don't give us that, issue, give us that problem that you're not African enough, Black enough,
Yes.
especially during the Black Lives Matter movement, you know,
Yes.
climate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's been obviously one of the most remarkable moments in 2020. I mean, globally, the rise of this movement. I wonder how was the movement viewed in Ghana? What was the reaction in Ghana to the Black Lives Matter movement?
Wow, it was very, yeah. I mean, we also have a lot of people have their families there. There are Americans here,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Africans there. So the fact that you are hearing that a police can shoot you down, especially if you're a Black male, just because you look threatening, it's scary, because from that aspect, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be somebody So we felt very, very attached to that. And then also we are humans, and racism comes in so many forms. In my country, I don't feel it so much, like as much as when I visit the US, because we are all, majority of us are Black. So it's, I don't feel, that any racism. And most of the foreigners that come into this country, whether Asian or American or European or so on, they behave themselves. They abide by the laws of the country. You could be, you couldn't discriminate against, if you are found guilty of discriminating against somebody or harming somebody based on their race or color, you would be prosecuted, you would, or deported or something. So most of them behave themselves when they are here. And we are very pleasant people in this country. So we don't really have that issue. So it was a bit difficult for people to understand, like, why would you kill somebody because of the color of their, like, a lot of us can't comprehend it. And so I visited the US was when I had an idea, okay, I'm listening to a lot of conversations about that. And so when George Floyd was murdered, there was a protest. Unfortunately, it was during this COVID time. So some people still took to the streets and even had to get arrested by police and stuff like that, because they were trying to keep people at home, during the lockdown and all that. But there was also another vigil held, which I attended, and they only selected about 10 people to go in front of the American embassy to protest. So that one was very well organized, and they didn't let us go as a group. But they also took our details down, and it was organized by some of the African American communities here in Ghana. And they wanted to contact us in case we are also interested in seeing how we can support the Black Lives Matter and support African Americans back in the US. And then our president also, the government held a vigil as well. It was a very colorful ceremony. I saw it on the news and everything. And it even went, I think people in the US heard about it. Because there were some people that mentioned it. I don't know if it was the US president or so that mentioned it, or a university or something. I don't want to give the wrong details, but some people acknowledged that the government of Ghana was one of the few African countries that actually did a vigil and spoke about it. And yes, surrounding George Floyd's murder. I
didn't even know that. It's amazing.
Yes.
And like you say, I can imagine for those people who are in the US or other countries, who are Ghanaian descendants or related to people from Ghana, that must have been a really powerful message to receive.
Yes, I mean, Ghana, even in our history, being the first African country to gain independence, a lot of that was during, not too long. It was during the time they were doing the civil rights movement as well in the US. So Martin Luther King has been to Ghana before. W.E.B. Du Bois is buried in Ghana. He came to Ghana. He was very close friends with our first president, and chose, his dying wish was that he would not be buried in the US, he would be buried in Ghana. So we have a W.E.B. Du Bois Center where you would go. It's more like an African American museum. And so Ghana has very close ties with, the African American communities. And, so many people I think, if you start mentioning them, a lot of them have been to Ghana before, So Tina Turner is the only musician that I know, but a lot of activists within the civil rights movement had come to Ghana, had been to Ghana. Yeah,
Wow.
because also Ghana was the biggest, how do you call it, gateway through which the slave trade took place. It was through Ghana that most of the slaves were sent to. So we have on our coast, a lot of forts and castles and, dungeons and slave castles and stuff like that.
Wow.
I hope, we have a very big tourist attraction for that. African Americans come from all over the world. So when Obama first got his term as first president, African American president in the U.S., the first country he chose to visit, even though his lineage or his father is Kenyan, he visited Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah, he visited Ghana and he went to the Cape Coast Castle, which was one of the major castles where a lot of the slaves went through. Even though his father was not, his father was an African, did not have to go to, but he could relate because people always probably saw him as African American, as in his ancestors came from there. So, and to even know the story, a lot of Europeans come to the country to also see for themselves, whether, how true it was and how bad it was. And it was, a lot of them can now understand the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that, yes, it inspires them to see, yes, I now know what, my ancestors or other people's ancestors of white privilege did to Africans, from most of West Africa. So, especially Ghanaians. So, they can sympathize. And so we did a lot. We have this very close relationship with the US and they really understand where we are coming from, and we also try to show our support to the Black Lives Matter movement, hope that in kind of like in memoriam of all those who also fought for their civil rights and all that, and also for us as Africans as well, that they will also look up to us. I mean, help us out when we are also in a place where we need to, withdraw, or like disentangle ourselves from colonialism or neo-colonialism. Yeah.
One of the things as a European person watching the Black Lives Matter movement, it was kind of amazing to see this mass mobilization of people. And one of the things that I took away from it, which I was quite surprised by, was I thought I was quite aware, quite informed, quite, obviously a liberal person, but the amount of statues we had all across the UK to people who were slave traders, slave owners, and people.
Wow.
Certainly I had never heard of, and that they were sort of well known, and that I found very amazing, and I think it was a big eye opener to me, just to even in the UK where I live, to see the extent of the kind of cultural impact of this issue, was much more bedded in than I had ever appreciated. So that's a really interesting.
I think that it's a movement. Yeah, it's a movement, and as much as you have to give space, like in any kind of activism, you have to give space to the people whose voices need to be heard. I also really believe in allyship in any way. So if a lot more white people become enlightened and face the truth and face the fact and see how they can also check their privileges and also support these movements, and in their own small way, and in the best way that you can be an ally, rather than taking up the space.
Yes.
It helps a lot. So for me, I feel like a lot more education has to go out, because I do see a lot of, ignorant claims and all that about, it's not that bad, or, it's not about race, or I also know a number of white people were killed by police and stuff like that, but you haven't had the lived experience of not just being Black, but being an African American in a country where there's so much police brutality, or just an individual shooting you down on the street or something. So until you have that, you can't really say for sure that you know what it feels like. And it's okay to admit that you are not Black, you are not African, or African American, so you can't relate to them on that level, but you definitely understand and want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very important. Well, I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, which I am very keen to learn a lot more about, is the LGBT community in Ghana, because again, I just think this is an area where to take a European perspective, I can't imagine what it's like to be an LGBT person or to be part of the LGBT community in Ghana. So can you tell us, like, what is it like for LGBT people in Ghana?
Yes. So I would say it from the perspective of being an ally for all these years and speaking and being close to members of those communities, because I'm heterosexual. So a lot of times I come with that privilege, but I have, all through, even when I was a Christian, I didn't know about homophobia. I didn't know you can hate somebody just because the person is different. I just didn't understand it. So I didn't realize it was an issue until I became an atheist and then started facing that kind of discrimination. And then when we started talking about the issues about LGBT people, was when I saw that, wow, it's a big deal in Ghana, and across Africa, most countries it's a really big deal. You cannot count, and what do I do about it? Like, why? Because I've had friends that were, gay or lesbian or bisexual, and I didn't have a problem. Like, what is your problem? To really understand the homophobic point of view and try to debunk it and try to, show people that it's not like that. But then as I also became very involved in other human rights activism, and LGBT issues became one of the main topics that Humanist Association of Ghana really wanted to advocate for, because no one else was doing it. In fact, the religious groups are the ones who are even promoting this homophobia, and they're pushing for laws to clamp down on people for just being born gay or lesbian or bisexual or trans, just being who you are. They are going to push the laws, because the law we have now is not effective enough for them. And the law was a British colonial law, which has never been changed even after independence. And the law states about unnatural carnal knowledge, which is basically putting your penis into any other part of the body other than a vagina, to put it plainly. But so a lot of things, should fall under that law. For example, oral sex and so on.
So it's not even just an LGBT issue?
It's not an LGBT issue, because even lesbians should not be affected by it. But unfortunately, somebody has interpreted that law to Ghanaians to say it is illegal to be gay in Ghana, and has continued to, they have been pushing this agenda to try to silence people, or I don't know, make them change their sexual orientation or something. I really have no idea what they hope to achieve. But right now we've gotten to the point where there's a coalition since last year that has formed and is really, really bent at making sure that the law is explicit. If you are gay or found to be having not a natural carnal knowledge, because that might affect them, but sodomy, with their calling anal sex, or anything with the same sex, period, anything with the same sex, any form of intimacy, that you will be jailed. Like Nigeria has had that law passed, where you'll be put in jail for 14 years. And I don't know how you can even survive, just for being yourself in such a place, especially where you're going to meet more homophobic criminals.
Yeah.
You understand? And that is what they're pushing for Ghana. And our current Speaker of Parliament has been one of those who has been writing articles way before he even got this position, has been pushing for any government that comes into power to make their claim. Are you for LGBT people or not? Every day, journalists, media, everybody is trying to, as soon as a politician comes up with the agenda, they say, are you for LGBT people or not? Because if you are, then nobody's going to vote for you. So it's a very serious situation in Ghana now. And they organize this World Congress of Families, where this far-right evangelical Christian group that had already tried to do that in other parts of the United States. And they don't succeed. They succeeded and it was overturned in some states. And they've come, I think, in California. And they've come to Ghana. to try to, support those kind of groups, religious groups that are coming together. Even at this point, the Christians are ready to, be in the same space with Muslims, just so that they can both come together on this issue. That's how bad it is.
Wow.
Like, seriously, not on any other human rights issue, especially those that religious people are enforcing, but especially when it comes to LGBT issue, all of a sudden, these religious groups become the best of friends and are ready to work together to make sure that people are jailed for that. The people in the community go through a lot of lynching, mob lynching, and
Wow.
beatings just for even being effeminate, not necessarily being gay. I mean, you can't even tell somebody's gay, the person is effeminate. But I have met people, in the community. I just spoke to the person a few weeks ago, and there are pictures of him being bloody and beaten up and all that. And it's really serious. And there's a lot of corrective rape, gang raping of lesbians in the country. And because of that, a lot of high suicide rates among LGBT people. They don't get a lot of health care because you have an STD and you go and see your doctor. They will ask you to bring your partner. And in some hospitals, if you take your partner, they will even either turn you away or worse. They could have you arrested or something, both you and your partner or something like that. So they've been scared to, it's I can't imagine what it feels like to be an LGBT person.
I also think that when you talk there about the focus of the government on these anti-sodomy or carnal knowledge laws and things, I recognize that kind of debate from other places where it's brought up, and one of the things I always find very unsettling about it is this constant focus on sex, as if it paints LGBT plus people as sexual objects that are just concerned about having sex, and rather than human beings who love each other and just want to express their love in the same way that everybody else does.
Exactly. I don't know if they see their heterosexuality from that point of view, because it really baffles me as well. I go like, is that how you see women you are attracted to if you are men? That we are just sexual objects, because then you are just projecting your idea of your sexuality onto homosexuals, and that is just fallacious. You can't do that. And besides, and so we, especially when we're in our activism, talk more about love. It's about a love or attraction, pure attraction. Even for heterosexuals, you don't have to be in love with a person to have some kind of relationship with a person. So I don't see why, let's just take it from that point of view. So I was very happy to be invited on a radio program to speak about an issue where current president, within his first term of office, was invited to Al Jazeera News Network. And he was asked the question about the LGBT situation in Ghana. And basically paraphrasing here, he spoke about how he thinks that it's a matter of time that LGBT people will be given their rights to be, because he was a student. He remembers when he was a young student in the UK, and a lot of people were very homophobic then. But he was also in the UK at a time when, LGBT people were going on pride marches and, protesting, and within, a space of time, their rights were given, and now you can even marry and do so many things. So he feels like he's just looking out for activists to start coming out. He wanted to hear more people speaking for the rights of LGBT people, because he felt that Ghanaians in general were not ready for people, LGBT people, to be free or to be non-discriminated, or for the law to be delegalized. Like they removed that law and completely. So if he sees a lot of advocacy coming out, he will consider what to do about the law. And that pissed off a lot of religious people, especially this homophobic front, because for some people, they were hearing yes and no, like, I'm not going to handle this is not on my agenda as a president. But then he's also not saying, no, I don't like gay people. So they were not too happy about that answer. And the fact that he's calling for more activism really didn't sit well with a lot of people. So I was called on radio the next morning, along with another executive of a very big LGBT organization. And yeah, I mean, you hear people calling in, so this so-called human rights lawyer, who is one of the leaders of this group that invited the World Congress of Families to come. And he came on my radio show and, saying all kinds of fallacious things and, just blatant lies, and even mentioning that the United Nations doesn't recognize gay rights as a human right and things like that. And, these are somebody that a lot of people look up to, including a Speaker of Parliament, who I also respect a lot. But when it comes to LGBT issues, it's unfortunate that these people become all of a sudden want to use, oh, it's not a Ghanaian culture. Oh, no, it's not African. Oh, no, it's not, it's not Christ-like, or, it's not God-like. So that kind of thing, they use those kind of things. So they are pushing for gay conversion therapy to be introduced in Ghana by the government.
Goodness.
So if you are caught to be gay or lesbian or queer, basically, to be sent to these camps or, I don't know, institutions to be deconverted. And if that doesn't happen, then you are prosecuted. So this has been, so we have a lot of work to do, but we are not giving up. There are more LGBT people coming out and speaking out, organizing more programs to assist the community. Now there's a lot more access to healthcare than ever before. And we are still campaigning. We are still going ahead, talking to other people within the community, even a lot of people who don't even understand what it means to be homosexual, even though they don't understand it because they have been indoctrinated to believe that they were born a sin, and all those kind of things. So I'm very happy that the community always invites me. Honestly, it's a pleasure, and I don't know, I'm very humbled by it because they don't really trust a lot of heterosexual allies. No. And so for me to be constantly called upon to be in their space, to come and speak, in their space, or speak on their behalf when they cannot show their faces. I mean, I can't say, I don't know what to say. I'm really, really grateful to them for everything that they've done. And this month, they organized Virtual Pride. So they had so many activists and members of the community, doing live Instagram programs. So you find them on their Instagram page, LGBT Plus Rights Ghana.
Wow. Yeah. That's great. And I was just thinking one thing as you were talking there, and you wrote an article, or you spoke out about the World Union of Families, and we can put a link in the description, as they say. But we spoke at the start of this about decolonialization, which is obviously a very important process, and the fact that the anti-LGBT plus laws are a relic of colonial oppression in Ghana. Yes. And also the fact that we have this US group, the World Union of Families, and other groups. Basically, I mean, could we say that that is a new form of colonialism, trying to reinforce and to reintroduce vile homophobic elements into Ghana? Would you say that that's a similar sort of a thing?
Yes, I think that I mean, I gave a statement, at a very emotional time at the time, because I don't even know, I was really upset about that program being organized, especially in Ghana. And these things have happened in Uganda, where a Kill the Gays bill was almost introduced twice, even last year and early this year. So they tried to introduce it again and again. And they always use the technical fault to push them back. But I'm hoping that they never lose that battle with whoever is doing the activism in Uganda. That you had these American evangelicals teaming up with local evangelical churches to make homosexuality look so bad, so nasty, or and Christ-like, or and like something from the devil, and all kinds of things, that harms people in the community as well as their family members and the people in their lives. I mean, other people, because sometimes they feel, I think these American organizations come in, they see that we don't feel as homophobic as they want to. And they get a few of these evangelical churches who know that they're going to make a lot of money from gay conversion therapy if you have to pay for it and all that, and it's made a law or whatever. I don't know what other agendas they have, but these when you have foreigners coming to influence you, not in a positive way, but in a negative way, then it hurts. Because in our African culture, we were never homophobic. We were never homophobic before colonization. And a lot of Africans don't even know it, because if they look as far back, all they can remember is from colonization, from when colonization started. A lot of our history is so lost. A lot of our culture has been like erased, from colonization, that people can't even remember. But luckily for us, there are some reports like that have been written, thesis and so on, research done on so many of our tribes, and how even some cultures in Africa, you had people in the LGBT community who were like celebrated. I'm kind of like looking at pre-colonial times as having this pride march or some pride celebration of some kind. But we've not seen it for so many centuries that people can't imagine. When I say we are ancestors, if you want to be truly African, you cannot be homophobic. Yeah. Because that is the true Africanness. What you are doing is rather bowing down, giving up your critical thinking faculties and enabling foreigners again to enslave your mind. So, and of course, there's a lot of, evidence that people are born that way. So why do you keep making up things to support it? I mean, our biggest, I think that the toughest argument is on religion, because a lot of people can find, plain text in the Bible, especially, that mentions things against homosexuals and lesbianism and so on. But then I have also spoken to a lot of religious people who are in the LGBT community, the queer people who are religious, and who also have other texts in their Bible, in their Quran, that supports their homosexuality. So we can still, debunk these things. It's unfortunate that we need the help of, these homophobic people need the help of foreign countries to come and influence you, to push governments and lobby with governments to do this. But if we also have a lot more allies or allied foreign companies who are against this, because I remember Scotland did have a statement to our government, because at the time I think we were receiving loans and other grants from the Scottish government, and they threatened to withdraw or those loans and stuff if we don't stop discriminating against LGBT people. And it became a whole brouhaha, but nothing really happened from that. And so if we continue to have these ally organizations who are going to put their foot down, then we can say that just the one of a few evangelical or far-right groups you can get in the States is not going to do any harm to us. We are going to fight back as long as our allied organizations and countries around the world. And we have embassies here in Ghana that support the LGBT community here in Ghana. They support the LGBT rights group organization and campaign here in Ghana. They give donations to the LGBT communities. They show up, also put up their pride flags and all that.
Excellent.
Yes, and even I've been seeing a lot of information from the current Australian ambassador, High Commissioner. The new Australian High Commissioner was, interviewed, and he was asked, how would you feel if your son or daughter is gay? And he said he's not going to have a problem with it. And he got a lot of backlash from Ghanaians. But yes, if we have more people speaking up about it, and saying, look, you can come to my country, you can feel free, because my country doesn't discriminate against LGBT people because of this and that, then we are still, very optimistic that the campaigns will work out. Yeah, the movements will work out.
Wow.
Sorry, well, I think, I'm at work. That's why people are coming.
No, I understand. Well, listen, I think we're probably heading towards the end of our time together. So is there any last things you would like to say to our viewers? Any last messages?
Yes, I would like to say a big thank you to Humanists International for being there for humanists around the world and for helping to protect humanists at risk. I also want to say to all my fellow African humanists and humanists around the world, don't give up. Keep on with the good work you are doing. Let's unite. Hopefully, after this COVID pandemic, we can meet again at a conference, at annual conference, physically the next time. And let's continue to promote humanism, promote critical thinking. And even with just promoting critical thinking, it will get more people to be free thinkers and eventually humanists.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Rose. I think you know, you're one of the most amazing activists and organizers that I know, and I think you're an inspiration to the rest of us. So I'd like to thank you again for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.